Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Kalen Carr, Kalen with a C, as always, David Goss, Asbury Park's own, Bradley Beach's
There he is.
#1 resident.
You guys have been kicking it. I love that on your
Tom
off
Bogert.
days, you and Tom kick it.
Yes.
I love that.
It was wonderful. I felt like Lionel Messi at Primo Pasta in Asbury Park. Phones were out, paparazzi, people posing for pictures, saying, "You're the greatest, you're the greatest." Not quite like that, but it was nice to be with Tom. They did recognize his
Is that
New
the South
Jersey
Beach
roots.
of the Jersey Shore?
I don't know. Talk to Tom about that. So Tom, you tell me everything I need to know here. I'm just following him.
Goss, I will say people from my area that listen to the show were really upset with you when it was me, you, and Kaylin Kyle. When she asked Tom, what's a Jersey Shore like? And Goss thunders in with, actually, it's like the west coast of Florida. What do you think about that?
And no one,
And he's
no
like-
one on set knew the difference between the east and west coast of
well,
Florida.
she asked,
No, I'm aware.
she asked a
Oh,
question
yeah.
about New Jersey directed to me. And Goss goes, I've never been there, but.
In fairness, no, I'm pretty sure you had already said, I don't really know how to describe it. And I was
That's because you started with, well, it's like the West Coast. And I was like, I've never been there.
This
and
is-
Kaylin's
this-
like,
I-
I've never been there either.
I was attacking goal and I turned back and
You
I
were-
put it on your strong foot
Relax.
at pace to hit it first time and you scuffed
You were
it.
like Ezekiel Barco in transition where he took 19 sideways touches and then looked at me like I didn't make a run.
Sounds like I play for River Plate.
This is the most New Jersey. I barely live in New Jersey. Have barely lived there. I'm only starting to be
That's some disrespect.
starting to be familiar with it. But this is
Thank
the
you.
most New Jersey energy I've ever been a part of or felt.
Yesterday.
Like,
I guess I
someone
probably-
give me a cutlet.
I probably should have described it off Long Island beaches and I said it could have been more like Port Jefferson than anything near Long Beach or the Hamptons.
We'll end it with this. I walked into the studio and I
I got
had
you, Caleb.
literally, and people on Twitter DMing me saying, I know more about your birthday weekend than you do. Like the stories that were told. I greatly enjoyed the 2-man game from you and Tom. Dave, felt like maybe, I would go for the high five there. It feels like a job might be in jeopardy if I let you guys do this too often. But we have a big show today. Some programming notes for you. We'll start with that and then take you through the rundown here. There will be a show next Monday. It's a Leagues Cup preview from the studios here in New York City. We will not be doing shows from Washington, D.C., from the MLS All-Star Game. That will not be happening this year. It is, Dave, would you say tragic? Or is it that serious? I mean, we're not going to get a Bobby Warshaw moment. We're not going to go down in history.
Yeah, that was a good
We're not
show.
going to drag ourselves off off the deck after a long night at the All-Star parties.
No.
It's going to be all good, clean
You're gonna
fun
be there.
with no documentation.
You're going to be there for the parties, Weeby. This is the completion of your life you've been waiting for.
Without
Are you
having
going to
to
do a
podcast
march,
the next day.
march to the match, potentially?
If there's a march to the match, I will be marching through Buzzard Point straight to the All-Star Game. There will not be a show on Thursday because we will all be traveling back from the All-Star Game. I know that kills some of you who use this show to commute or to kill time during your workday, or who just incredibly enjoy us sitting around for 90 minutes twice a week talking about soccer. But we'll be back the next week. So full Leagues Cup preview on the Monday. And also, I assume, talking Messi. Inter Miami has tweeted, has promoted, saved the date, July 16th, Sunday, 6 p.m., Drive Pink Stadium. Tickets are free for season ticket members. It's an unveiling. What they may be unveiling, no one
Free tickets.
could guess if you're a season ticket member.
Are you not?
I
You don't have season tickets to every MLS team? You
In
don't
my
pay
heart.
for that up
Yeah,
front?
in my heart, I do.
I
I have a credential, so I guess I do.
That's how I invest back into the league.
Gotcha. All right, put an investment down right here on Matchday 25. That's where we'll start. We'll take you through all the big matches. Look ahead to Matchday 26, the final match day before the All-Star Game.
The
and then a
season's
month
like
of Leagues
over.
Cup. It's basically done.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the summer break.
Yeah. We're at
People
the
always
finish.
ask for it. We're giving it to you.
Yeah.
Taking it off.
25.
Woo! Yeah, it's a lot. Kaylin, what's the best thing you saw from Matchday 25? 10 matches or 9.5, depending on your point of view, on a Wednesday night.
Well, I don't go to Jersey often, all due respect
But
to the
when
group here.
I do,
But when I do, it's to Red Bull Arena.
Which is one of the nicer beaches, that river. That's one of the nicer beaches in Jersey. They're actually pretty famous for it.
Nice.
Am I right, Tom?
I'll show up
You're
early
wrong.
next time. Yeah, I think I got to go earlier. I
you
try
know,
to go
they have
straight.
been building onto the boardwalk there in Harrison, down from
Yeah.
Red Bull Arena. It's
Yeah.
really improved.
Yeah.
New train
It-
station.
It's one of the places to go in all of New Jersey.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Five Guys always popping.
It's a top hit.
For me, it's either Foxborough or, it's another high bar for me as far as what the combinations I like to hang out in. But FC Cincinnati went down a goal early in the match. Duncan, they were applying pressure. It wasn't like a ton of opportunities, but Red Bull definitely had the better of the first half. Get the penalty, comes off Hagland. Listen to instant replay. I thought it was a good call. But yeah, they go in at halftime. Cincinnati played a altered lineup, shall we say. I mean, they had, a bunch of guys missing, Vasquez, Miazga, of course, but then, rested some players as well, and went with some of the young guys, Kimi Ordonez and who else was in there?
Malik Pinto.
Yeah, Pinto, Angulo. A number of guys got an opportunity. Powell played center back, Ray Gaddis on the right. So they kind of rotated, I think, partly with an idea towards their match at home against Nashville, which was a pivotal one if they want to really kind of, 1 versus 2, now 3 in the Eastern Conference, pushing for the supporter shield. But I was just so impressed the way that Cincinnati at halftime changed it up. They brought in a number of players at halftime. They brought in Moreno. I thought was able to give them a little bit more possession, a platform going against that midfield where it's so crowded for Red Bull. They find their way back in. They switch things up to get Acosta a little bit deeper. Sergio Santos and Arias come in. Those substitutions made a big difference. And then they get the penalty. And from there, I was like, okay, I was starting to wrap up my thoughts with Callum Williams of like, all right, a point on the road is a really good result for Cincinnati, considering all the different circumstances that they're in right now. And then next thing you know, set piece, or it starts to swing all the way around and then bounces out. And then Wobodo gets the late winner, which was, for him, there's an amazing part of his game where defensively, he's always able to have kind of a knack for where the ball's going to end up and just reads the game so well. But in the box, too, he's shown a little bit there to understand where that ball was going to drop to, comes back to it, gets his feet set, and then is able to put it on frame. Coronel.
Yeah, did he look at the hands? He looked at the turf.
I think it took a slight deflection.
Teammates.
Yeah, he was looking around for answers.
Any excuse.
Yeah.
Any reason. Any possible reason why he didn't just catch that or push it aside with the goalkeeper can use his hands.
Red Bull, I still don't think they have a way of closing out games. They can't get the second goal. They don't have the attacking firepower to do that, and they can't keep possession enough to run out a game. Small details, all that. That was the big difference for me. That's how FC Cincinnati always wins these matches. It's their 11th one-goal win this season, 13 all comps. And that's where it is. That's small margins.
That's 11 and 14 overall wins in the league, by the way.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of those Revs teams.
And for me, that was the thing where it felt like the type of match where you're saying, you're going to look back at the end and say, this is where the supporter shield ends up, where you say, you don't have your manager, you don't have, players gone with the Gold Cup. And look, Red Bull is missing players as well. The Gold Cup, Tolkien, Burke, others. Lewis Morgan's been out for a long time. Andres Reyes was on his second yellow card suspension in the season. So they're missing players throughout, but
that's tight.
That is
it's actually double jeopody at that point. So he's good because, it's yellow card suspensions with yellow card suspension.
You can't convict him again.
Well, I think
lightning can't strike twice.
It keeps getting shorter as the season. I think it starts with 5, then it goes to 3. And so he's still got an opportunity.
But they take some off for good behavior if you go a long stretch. So he's got that.
Does being suspended count for good
behavior? Right. Has not gotten a yellow card in one straight game.
But now Cincinnati has built some distance, right? Now they're in a good spot. Nashville has both outside backs red carded from their match, which we'll get to later. But I was just so impressed by Cincinnati and the way that in a match where I feel like I've been on these teams where you have to rotate guys, play guys out of position, try different homegrown players, and your manager's not there, all that. And they just seem so calm, always seem to find a way. Late on in a match, they could have been, content to say, whatever, we lost this one, or we found a way back. We got a point on the road. But they kept pushing it, and I think that just says a lot about this team.
3 straight games with comebacks. The first 2 were draws. This one is a win. You said it, 8 points on New England in the Supporter Shield race. They both played 22 points. Nashville have lost 4 of 5, and of course they lost to Philly at home, are now 10 points back. And in the Western Conference, St. Louis are the closest, 10 points back.
You know what's delicious about this? Because I was looking at those standings as well. Because everyone's on equal games now played.
Yeah, it's finally it's evened out to where
It's like LAFC's finally made up all their games. Philly made up all their games. Since he's up 8 points, I think this might be over. I'm not sure. I was looking through the Revs schedule. It's not impossible. The Revs finish with Philly on decision day, which if they need 3 points, Philly's going to be in the running. But since he goes to Miami the second to last week of the season, which could be interesting. It's one of the things we talked about, I think, on Monday, but I don't know, of like, if you got Miami second half of the schedule, that's unfortunate. Like, you wish you had them first half of the schedule because everyone else took points. So there's like an expectation.
St. Louis made 7 changes in LA, knowing they had Miami at home right before Leagues Cup. Like, get a little pre-Messi point boost.
Yeah.
Are they going to win? Cincinnati. Are we declaring this? Would you guarantee that Cincinnati
Seattle has no chance
will
to
win
win
the Supporters Shield?
That's the genesis of the guarantee, is betting against Seattle.
Right.
I would say yes.
I feel good about going for it too. Partly because now you think of Vasquez coming back. I feel like he's picked up some confidence. Bupenza, as we spoke to Noonan throughout the week, it sounds like they want to be cautious and careful with him. He had a long travel coming in. They don't want to rush into it. I think when you think of where they are in the table, it gives them a little bit of leeway to do that. I would expect him to play some role against Nashville at home, in front of that crowd. It's probably a better platform to maybe come into the match. I mentioned those guys they rested. I think you'll see those guys go from the beginning in this one. But when you think of that front three clicking, and then if they even go out and sounded like they might be interested, we've got Tom Bogert on the show, of course, to maybe add another piece, either in the back line or up front. So they seem to be getting stronger. And that's the scary part if Bupenza can really hit.
The one thing is Mosquera's loan.
They've already extended it through the season. Yeah.
Never mind.
I love how we just like we have little transfer questions and we kind of like slow play. Like,
it is.
The one thing I remember is there's
He's
a
like,
possible rumor look straight into Tom Bogert.
It's not the Ivan Angulo one, which is Ivan Angulo's loan is up. No, we extended it 4 months ago. We just didn't tell anyone.
Hey Siri, tell me. Except your Siri, Tom. Yeah, man, it's a great season for Cincinnati, and it's just the polar opposite of what they've been for so long. So congratulations to them. Win on the road. Come back home before.
Nobody should be in the MVP conversation.
Ooh.
Oh, we're going João Paulo.
Yeah.
It's a good take, Oz.
He is the best defensive mid in this league. It's proven that you have to have an elite player there to win. You talk about all the players that are out, like your spine. It's Lucho and Nobodo.
Would you take him over Lucho?
Ooh, spicy.
Well, you kind of have
to make it into the conversation. You got to at least win your team MVP to win the league MVP.
I don't think that.
No, you take Lucho.
I don't think that you need to win your team MVP to be a finalist. If you set a points record or if you win Supporters Shield by a mile, you can have more than one player in that.
I would say that for best 11. I wouldn't say that for MVP.
Well, Nobodo can't get into best 11 because it's like six forwards in an
Let's start it. Yeah,
D-mids are not allowed.
I've always had a D-mid on
club,
this.
okay?
I think that we need to get this publicly going.
Well, the other thing is
have a D-mid on this.
But you've got Barreal. He's going to be best 11. I think for me the best wing back in MLS. Then you've got Miazga. There's just I think he's going to be the unsung hero, which, from what I hear of him as a player, the way he trains, the way he plays, like that's kind of his role. That's why he's a good number 6, because they're not always in those conversations. But he has been tremendous. I've gotten to call both of his goals this season. I did Matchday 1 and this one, so I feel like I'm a little bit good.
Subtle flex.
Yeah. I mean, Cincinnati, these are the types of ones where you're not supposed to win them, and that's where I think it was even more impressive.
Shout out, by the way, to the Noonan family, to Pat Noonan. He was not in the building for this game this weekend. His father, Big Pete, passed away. They were at the funeral. So shout out to their family, and hope everything is going as well as it can be in a trying time for them. Tom, what's the best thing you saw on Matchday 25?
Good transition here to a high energy Miguel Trauco golazo for San Jose. It was off a corner kick, a beautiful kind of training ground set piece. It was kind of taken to him at the top of the 18 at the far post, standing by himself, full volley into the corner. I can't imagine how sweet it is to hit a ball like that. It's one of those where like the ball's in the air, you're like, whoa, and you're going nuts in the control room. That felt good. We needed that juice kind of in a 10:30 game. I don't know. That was
it's Trauco only scores one way.
Yeah,
this is the way. San Jose with a big win at home against Seattle Sounders. Sorry about that, Anders. I know he was frustrated by some of the lack of goal-scoring punch would be one from the Sounders, but also some calls in that game. By the way, we just had a trade go official. I learned through the group chat from David Goss, who's sitting right next to me, The Mark Anthony K trade went official.
Tom tweeted that.
Tom tweeted that.
I'm looking at
You
it on
put it
Twitter
in-
by
no.
Seth Man. Shout out Seth Man. But
Gotcha.
Tom, I'm
It's
the
a
one who texted you a
very
picture
convoluted
Do you not have their numbers
communication.
stored?
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, it's on my computer, and for whatever reason, it doesn't port over my contacts. So I've learned all of your phone numbers, but that was not your phone number.
That
I now
is
realize.
actually one of the scariest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's
The psychopath behaviors
Yeah.
we've learned from the two of you, Kaylin and Weeby, on your computers
Nice.
over the last 2 hours.
Don't turn your computer around, Kaylin, and show us your desktop.
Oh my God.
Do not do it. Anyway, we'll talk about the Latif.
No,
Blessing,
I sent
Mark
the
Anthony
picture
K
of
trade in a
Sam
bit.
Surge at the Nashville airport.
Tight. We'll get to Sam Surge in a little bit.
Just snapped
It's-
from the bottom, from the phone down at the waist.
It's Sam Surge or someone who looks like Sam Sturge, and then someone who looks like Nashville GM Mike Jacobs. So
Okay.
possible number 9 coming in, depending on our facial or back
You can't even
recognition.
see his face.
Yeah, backs or Adidas trainer technology. We'll identify him at a later date. Dave, best thing you saw on Matchday 25.
Are we talking about the trade, or we're gonna do that later?
No, we'll do it later. We'll finish off this.
I put a list down.
Oh, I'm gone for 2 shows. 2 shows.
Well, I really liked SKC's goal celebration on, I think it was Daniel Shallowy's goal, where they all got in a circle
The
and
team
did
bonding.
like
Yeah, the team
dance.
bonding celebration. Yeah.
What is
Was that what it was?
Is that
Yeah,
a known
they've
term?
been doing that for so their run of form kind of coincided after they had a team bonding activity or outing, whatever it was, and
This is great
they've
content.
done some celebrations like that. It looked better when they were up 1-0 rather than
Than
they
when
tied
they're-
2-2.
yeah.
But it's still cool.
So that was going to be my one, but I felt like I think that LAFC opening goal against St. Louis might be my goal of the year because of the pass from Cifuentes, the touch from Vela, and the finish. All of it is like at the highest level, and it was one of those games where we built it up on Monday of like these are 2 of the top 3 teams, previous Western Conference champions, Western Conference leaders, and it felt like a goal worthy of winning a game like that. And Cifuentes to hit like clean volley, long ball over the top, right exactly where he needs to, outside of the boot. And then Vela's touch and finish, and then like sort of like a yeah me type celebration was tight. But if I'm gonna celebrate a goal, then I gotta shout out my guy Carlos
This is good
Heel,
content. I got to tell you, this is my kind of content.
who watched ETR on Monday and heard Tom say, I think Sandy Sosa's actually been pretty good, right? Wasn't that the comment?
That's not what Tom said.
That is exactly what
I
Tom
listened
said.
to that show on my commute this morning, and I can verify that's exactly what Tom said.
Thank you. And so Carlos Heel heard that and said, oh, really? And then snatched his soul out of his body,
Yeah, that was tough.
necking him, and then going to the left, plays the perfect through ball back across the grain for Veroni to then dribble around the keeper 3 separate times.
And then do the Carlos Vela pause and wait. There was a lot of disrespect on that goal.
I thought he was gonna miss it
I thought so too.
because when Vela did it, I was like, he's in full control. It looked like that was, there was no question for me. Brioni was like, oh, bro, I don't know, man.
Did that touch get a little loose on
Also,
you?
yeah.
Didn't trust his weak foot with no defenders around 3 yards away from the goal.
Yeah, yeah.
Big-
it was like,
I think
yeah.
Mender had a finish like that last night too.
Did he?
Someone from Minnesota, I thought, did it as well, where it's
When-
like, you're like, oh no, sorry, it was
Sergio Cordova when Kip
Where
Keller
you're-
pushed over
Yeah.
Brad Stuver.
Well, and you're like, oh, such patience. Uh-oh. It's not patience. You're out of control.
Too much patience.
Shout
is
out to Matt
sometimes
Doyle
not a
for-
virtue.
For waiting till Sergio
that
Cordova
was-
scores a goal to return.
What a wonderful list that was. It did feel like 2019 Vela, like a snapshot back in time in some way. And
That
we've
first
been
touch.
asking about him for a while,
Yeah.
like that dominance that we saw. It's the touch. It's also just the burst to make the entire back line look like they're standing still. And then it's the casual, oh my God, that's an A+ God level finish. And then just sort of the confidence of being like, yeah, I'm that guy. I've been that guy.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. All 3 of the goals for LAFC, they know how to finish.
We'll talk about that game more. It's our number 1 game from Matchday 25. St. Louis, big rotators, but almost held on. Couldn't quite get it done. Best thing I saw, the mustache union on MLS 360. Very, very strong. Key organizer Tom Bogert here made his 360 debut, was in the studio. I am really regretful that I did not find a way to get up to the makeup room for Tom getting, his face put on.
How much color do they have to add to the mustache?
Color.
Did they
Yeah.
did they comb the mustache?
There's
Did they put any?
There's no Walt Frazier just for men's, Keith Hernandez stuff. in there?
28.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, but you
But you want it to look robust.
high tension job, high stress
You
environment.
also want it to look robust on TV.
Right.
No one on TV is real.
They didn't. I have a face for podcasting, so I'm sure that they needed to do a lot of face stuff. But I think that they
You
were
were there.
Like, wow,
You can tell us how much they.
not gonna touch the mustache. Like let's be careful.
Gotcha.
I think it worked out.
Not
well.
even just 1 or 2 hairs to trim.
Not even just the touch
If somebody
just to
put
feel
scissors near my mustache, I would react like you'd have to put me in like a straight chair to like.
That's you're near.
Whoa, big
This
Zoom
is
energy.
tough.
Nice.
Watching.
I wish I had makeup on now.
Yeah, that's tough for you. I did try to sabotage Tom's 360 debut. I was walking through Penn Station on my commute from beautiful New Jersey, and I saw someone with magnificent calves and who was clearly Tom Bogert, and I grabbed him from behind, and I thought he might punch me in the face. It took him a while. Yeah, it took him a while to greet me in a way that is befitting of a friend, but he finally came around. And then we got on the 2-3 train, and there was no air conditioning.
That was tough.
Oh, it's so tough. And then a 1 train came in. They're delaying the 2-3, and I said to Tom, everybody else is getting off the 2-3. We should get on the 1, which
Can't take the 1 here.
yeah, there are a lot of bad decisions here. As I said,
Did you switch to the
sabotage.
1?
Yeah.
I convinced Tom to switch to the 1, which then promptly stalled to the next station.
But also, where are you taking it? 110? You were gonna walk across the
110.
entire
Yeah, we screwed it
park?
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever lived here?
No, that's what I.
Look at the 2
Been- yeah.
country bumpkins go to the city one time. Caitlin, you should have driven by and picked them up.
Well, we did have to get out and we had to ride share it.
Yeah.
I eventually took the L. Yeah, I eventually took the
Wow.
L. So I tried to sabotage
Not
him.
the L train.
No, that wouldn't get me there either.
No, it runs across 14th
Correct.
Street.
East-west,
Yeah.
under the East River.
Yeah.
So I remember that.
Oh, yeah?
We're good there. Anyway, the best thing I actually saw or heard or read was the Vanni Sartini Josh Wolf dust-up at the end of the Caps 2-1 victory at home against Austin. By the way, this is the first win for the Whitecaps since Vanni went on stage to sing Nickelback with Nickelback. Not like, at a karaoke event, at an actual Nickelback concert. They had lost 2 straight
I think
games.
there's a Nickelback curse that exists. in
Possible
other
jinx
sports.
status was ongoing for the Whitecaps. It was a weird situation. Vanni got a yellow card right before the final whistle. He's now suspended against the Galaxy. And I didn't know what happened. I watched the highlights back, and it's like there's arguing, yelling. 4th official is involved. Vanni Sartini's not happy with the 4th official. Vanni Sartini said afterwards he got the yellow card for throwing a bottle and shaking hands early before the final whistle with the people on the bench because he thought the game was over, and then the ref thought he was stalling. And Josh Wolf's quote was, "I don't know what's happening. I wasn't paying attention when he pulls that stunt. That's him being him," speaking of Vanni. "If he wants to make a show of it, he can. I got respect for coaches in the game, and I certainly wouldn't carry myself or handle myself in that manner," which is a strong quote. He followed up after he was asked if he has respect for Coach Vanni Sartini. "Of course, he was my instructor during my pro license as a young coach. Of course, I have respect for him, but I think antics like that are nonsense." Vanni Sartini, either love him or you don't love him.
Vanni Sartini as a pro instructor is amazing.
Pretty much everyone in MLS has taken a course under Sartini.
Really?
Pretty much every
Incredible.
front office or coach person because he did it for a couple of years, at some point has been in his course. So anytime you ask someone about them, they always give you an answer, and then they're like, "But of course, he's a great instructor." And you're like, "What?" It's like this, where there's always a one comment and then, "But I love him and he's a
No
really good
offense,
guy."
but
Yeah.
You can understand, like, Vanni is the personality. Like,
But this is a quote from Josh Wolf, which goes, "I don't know what happened. Then let me say a lot about what happened."
well, I wasn't paying attention when he pulls that stunt.
That I
in
have
itself
really
is
strong
incredible.
feelings about
Right.
how I would handle myself
Yeah,
and what I would do.
Well, when you watch it all back, and he is in a pure Vanni moment. Like, we've seen him pound the ground in frustration. We've seen him look up to the clouds. We've seen him literally sing Nickelback at press availability. Like, you don't know what's going to happen when he's in front of a microphone on the bench in public, and it's wonderful, and I enjoy it, but I understand why Josh Wolf was like, "What's going on here?" as you take a L on the road. So maybe more to come on that one. Let's talk LAFC St. Louis City. 3-0 LAFC, who've been in a slump. St. Louis City had a 4-game slump, then won 3 straight. Obviously, they don't have their DPs, though Edward Leuven was on the bench and came back off the bench to make his debut for the first time in a month. Still no João Klaus. Kalen, tell me what you saw from LAFC. It took them 75 minutes maybe to get that first goal. St. Louis held on with wholesale changes, but they finally did it. They opened the floodgates, and it was a big win for Steve Cherundolo's boys.
Yeah, it was huge. And I think, especially when you think of, I thought this was going to be a match where, even despite all of the changes, that St. Louis was going to really try to test themselves and use as a measuring stick to go up against the defending champs. And, you know, for me, I was impressed with LAFC. They have many ways they can win. They have some flexibility where they can keep the ball. I think they're better when they actually play more in transition. And I think we saw that there, where when you see these changes, there were times where St. Louis continued to press, pushing on. And when you take a risk, you send those center backs forward, you open up that space in behind. And that's ultimately where LAFC was eventually able to exploit. You see the one with Vela, which, by the way, I just want to go back to it. That first touch, it looks like to move at full pace like that and to have the subtle control where the touch is, you know, most players are just trying to maybe take a touch, just get it, direct it in front of you, give yourself a chance. It's just so gentle to be able to just put it just in stride, then the next one, and the finish as well. But it was that first touch to me that was just mind-blowing. I think of the guys that, actually I think of like Landon, where he was able to move at top speed and was deceptively fast, kind of like Vela, where it felt like almost with the ball at times. Or I think of Justin Mapp, guys that with the ball kind of hit another level or don't actually have to slow down. And then sometimes I've been in that situation where you're going at top speed and the touch maybe doesn't quite hit the same way you would like it to. So that was so impressive to me. But I thought more than anything, the way that they were able to exploit that space in behind, once you break that first line of pressure or bypass it, that's when you can really exploit that space in behind St. Louis City. I saw it last night, frankly, with Red Bull, like that pressure. If you can get behind it and then suddenly it's the direct ball across from Bouanga to Buke, who finished well. And, you know, that was where some of the floodgates started to open up. And I thought for LAFC, it was a big match for them to kind of reestablish themselves going up against another team right near the top of the Western Conference and kind of to remind them, like, hey, we're the champs.
St. Louis still have the top of the West, 2-point gap on LAFC. What do you think LAFC's remainder of the season looks like? Plot it out for me, Dave. The transfer window's open, so that's part of it. How do they push on from here? Do they do it in Leagues Cup where they have a bye to the knockout rounds? Are they going to be a team that could challenge for the Shield, or is that ship sailed? Is this going to be a team when the playoffs start, given the additions we expect to make, and Tom, you can step in after this to explain that, where all this mid-season worrying ends up being a footnote to what is another wonderful season?
I think the Supporter Shield is probably already too far for them, and it feels like with the with Leagues Cup opportunity, getting the bye, and then what they've already done in playoff in their history, it feels like they'll probably understand that as well. Of like, we've got a shot at 2 cups. That's probably where your focus goes. The thing that I stepped away from this game with is I don't think any of that happens though without a center forward. And like sometimes we simplify things too much of like, they need talent, they need player, add this. But when you watch the first 55 minutes of that game, Bogusz gave them nothing, and Vela comes central to score the goal over the top. St. Louis is always going to give that space over the top, and it had to be a perfect ball from Cifuentes and a perfect touch from Vela, but it's there. And Bogusz wasn't capable of dealing with it. I thought Buke takes his goal well and gave them some options, but they're trying both constantly. Neither of them are consistent, and neither of them have settled really. And it doesn't feel like Vela's in a place where he can carry them just completely. And I think you've seen it sort of affect the way Bouanga's playing. They never got behind St. Louis until that moment. And that was both in set, moments against their set defense of like trying to get to the end line and pullbacks, which is something we've seen LAFC do for 5 years at an elite level, or in transition. That all comes from a center forward. Either it's pulling center backs away and allowing Vela and Bouanga to make runs in, or doing it yourself. Arango obviously did that well at times. There's no one on the roster to do that. And so when you look at this team, I don't think they're as elite through the middle as they've been over the last few years, but there's enough talent if you were to able to accomplish that, because you're going to bring Aaron Long back. That's going to be big for you. Murillo, you hope after all this layoff, you can get him back on the field as well. And Maxime Crépeau keeps training. And so it feels positive going in those directions. They can't win things without those pieces, but those pieces are already on the path to coming back. Center forward is the one spot where they need to do work in a way in which that player is ready to come in and affect them, and not, this guy's 22 and he's going to be elite. Like, they need that piece now.
We've seen teams do their business early. Teemu Pukki, who we'll talk about, who scored his first goal for Minnesota. Bupenza, who we just talked about. Nashville are very quiet.
Chicho Arango, they could have gone and
Chicho
signed him.
Arango, exactly, RSL. Tom, I haven't really heard rumors, reports, much of anything as far as specifics with LAFC. They have an open DP spot. What is going to happen?
Yeah, so they're aiming to add a young DP this summer and also a TAM level player. What I've been told is attacker, and when I've followed up with, does that mean center forward? That means attacker. So like I've been saying on the show for a while, this team, while it seems obvious, and I think it is obvious, guys, I agree with everything you're saying, that it should be a center forward. If they believe that the most high leverage or dynamic option to add to this team is a left winger or a right winger or an attack-minded central midfielder, then they might just do that. Again, I think it'll end up being a center forward because you look at this team, it has to be, but they don't go for need all the time. They go for, we're going to get the best player. Like, again, I've said this, made this example before, but they signed Gareth Bale, best winger. Then they signed Danny Bouanga to a DP contract, a winger. And then they signed Christian Teo, a winger, to Max Tam or whatever it was. This was just last summer. Those are three players that, if you're again, the idea was Gareth Bale to be here longer, right? And like the idea when you signed Christian Teo is hopefully that he proves that he's still good enough and really good, and we got a good deal and he's going to stay. And when you spend $5 million on Danny Bouanga, obviously it's long-term planning. But so they said, okay, like maybe we won't hit on all of these, but we think that all three of these individually are very good deals, and we're not going to let the fact that we just signed Gareth Bale stop us from signing Danny Bouanga. So for me, like I really think it should be a center forward, but this team has proven over and over again that maybe it won't be, and maybe they'll keep playing Vela, or maybe Bogus, whatever.
So playing Vela there, I don't hate, but like they have 2 of 3 attacking options. Yeah. Bogus and Buke are not the other one, I guess, is sort of the part, and then you let a Poku go. So I wouldn't even be that like upset if they were like, oh, this winger is legit. We'll slide Vela inside for the rest of the season. I think that's okay. They just need that talent.
And guys, you also brought up a good point about like, young DP and U22 initiative. Like again, like this, they're going to aim for a young DP. That I don't know if it'll be an 18 or 19-year-old. Like whatever it is, we give leeway to senior players coming in and adapting to this league, and it's even more so for young players in a young DP slot. I mean, that's more significant than a U22 initiative. But like for this season, like it's like special players who are young DPs are the ones that hit immediately. Like Diego Rossi was a good example. So again, it's obviously not impossible, but this isn't going to be a Chicho Arango signing, both either literally Chicho Arango or like a player like him that comes in and steps in right away, senior player who's going to score a lot of goals immediately. Like all of the other examples of young DP signings, like for good reasons, it takes a little while to adapt. So that's another thing. So maybe even if it is a young center forward, what if he takes a little bit of time? So maybe like that's where I'm curious to see where they use the young DP and where they use the TAM player, because I'm assuming that the TAM player would be more in prime.
You think agents and GMs and coaches explain to incoming players about the Goss theorem? Like the pressure's not it's not really on you to start, man. Like you take your time. Like,
look at Orlando. We got a whole team down there taking our time. That takes the pressure off.
Takes time to raise that championship banner, just an inch at a time, Dave. We'll get it up there to the.
Are we talking Open Cups?
We're talking whatever. We're talking preseason winners, whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. Best offseason.
Told you I listened to the show.
Credit to St. Louis. They lost 3-0, so it's not going to look like it. Massively rotated. They were in this game for
whole new back
5 minutes.
Like, all 4
John Bell came off, and that's sort of when they gave up the chance over the top, which I don't think it was because Bell was off, but he is someone that I thought would be more useful to them. He hasn't been. Bartlett's been great, which I am shocked by, and fantastic for them. And then Edward Leuven comes back. So there's a little bit of that, light at the end of the tunnel there of they've basically been missing their 2 most important attacking players now for a month. And then plus with Klaus, now it feels like it's starting to come to an end.
Felt like Bradley Carnell just tried to steal one. Said, going to LAFC, why expend all my resources there when I'm going to come home and play Miami and then have a very difficult Leagues Cup group? I think they have the Crew and Copa America in their Leagues Cup group, which is absolutely no joke, and it's a big opportunity for them. But a big win for LAFC, who are second in the West. St. Louis City remain first, 38 points. Houston Dynamo at home, where they've had a fortress, but then Minnesota United invaded and the Finns took over. Teemu Pukki, his first start, his first goal. How does Teemu Pukki change this team, Kaylin? Tell me about the finish as well. Not, finish.
Hey-o.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Look at how happy he is with himself. Look at this
Didn't
big
even do it
smile.
on purpose.
There's been
Didn't even do it on
you guys
purpose,
don't
but
understand.
There's a marketing campaign here somewhere.
Minnesota.
There's been like 2 or 3 of these already today, too.
Yeah, I've been. it's logical that he would score in 111-degree heat. Finns love their saunas, right?
This was one I was hoping was going to stay.
Very natural habitat for him, no?
It's actually pronounced sauna.
Got you. Yeah, that sounds right.
I'm going to go, Reynoso was the star to me.
Yeah, this is a wild pass.
Yeah, like that. The turn was ridiculous.
Yes.
to just turn on a dime.
Because when you watch it, you're like, why is Pukki so open? Which is a mistake.
Yes.
Rest defense was poor. But then you're like, not everyone turns out of that and then hits the perfect ball down the middle.
Yeah, and yes, the finish was right there. Oh God.
You're never gonna be able to say it without.
That's unfortunate.
You're gonna do Minnesota United games on season pass, and you're like, "What an incredible finish!" For guy, just
And Weeby's gonna pop up in your mind.
Record scratch every
Smiling
single
face.
time.
He took it early. I thought was a little bit surprised by that, but he picked a spot and scored very well. But yeah, the part for me is this Minnesota team has been so incredibly wasteful this year. They have missed so many opportunities. They have been in these positions, even when I think midweek of their match against Austin, they had just some really just brutal finishing. And he came on and it immediately looked different. And when you have somebody like a Reynoso that can supply you and can give you that consistent service, and something that you're not even expecting. Like that is such a big difference for this team. And then you have Langwane, who I thought showed some real calm under pressure. At times he's been behind some of those big misses that have, he's also been a part of their big goals. So credit to him. I think he has 6 goals now in the season. And they had to kind of use him as a primary weapon, which is not where he's at yet in his development. He's been very good, huge step forward in his progression. But, I was really impressed by his finish there. Just to take a little bit of extra time, pick a spot. So now I'm just seeing this. It looks like it's starting to click really for this team. And, I know they still have some ground to make up. But if you think about having a true goal scorer and then having Reynoso did go down in the second half. It looked like a kind of a cramp situation or something in that sauna heat, and they had to pull him off, and he looked a little frustrated when he came off, but they have to be careful with him because he is so important to what they're doing there. So but you start to see how these pieces can begin to fit here, and for Houston it was disappointing.
I'm pretty sure the stat, by the way, in Finland is there are more saunas than people.
Wow.
In the nation of Finland, because every unit has one, like every home, plus public ones. It's a great spot.
It's all making sense.
To your point, how does it change them is that nothing about their soccer has to change. It'll just be more efficient. And they'll play from leads rather than from being down and being equal. And then I do think you add in for Amanda Garcia or Langwane, it's less pressure. Because
it's more
your opportunity,
too.
well, 100%, but your opportunities are if I don't score this, we lose. It's we're tied, we're up. It just makes the game easier for them. But I do think you see in this game, these are the chances that Minnesota has generated, especially since Reynoso has come back. You just get the finish. He had one pass down. Reynoso did down the right-hand side that he fakes his whole body inside and everyone shifts, and then he opens up his foot and just plays it down the line. And there's no window there. And then it creates a chance breaking into the box.
I said in the pregame show, we were like, how are you going to, or maybe it was a preview earlier. It's how do you slow down Reynoso? It's just don't let him turn.
Yeah.
But then you watch games and literally the only thing any defender around him is focused on is not letting him turn. And it's like a magician. He's like, oh, no, rabbit out of the hat. I'm already by. Pass is already played. You missed. You bit. The little feint, the little deke, the little shift of weight, the touch. You just so hard to keep up with him. He is the best 1v1 player in the league by far. And now when he finds space, he's got a guy in Pukki who understands where and how to occupy that space and how to be just uber calm zen in front of goal. That's what stood out to me about the finish.
Yeah. But it's a different 1v1. It's not a 1v1 of I'm going to run at you, beat you one-on-one, drive at you, step up. Yeah. It's nothing like that. It's that little one-on-one of you can't get close to him. If you try to step to him, he's going to turn you. If you lay off him, he's going to turn and face and pick the pass. It's just an impossible matchup. But yeah, it's different. He's just so shifty.
The one thing interesting is, so they started Rosales on the wing.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder with Pukki in and with Reynoso back, how much it's going to be like we need defensive cover around them, even in quote unquote attacking spots. And maybe Ludd could do that because he's a two-way player.
He could do both.
But he won't be there for a little while still. So that'll just be interesting to watch.
Minnesota 10th right now in the West, just 2 wins in 9 home games. They got a pretty heavy home slate coming up. So if that changes, they're a sure thing.
If you were to
make
pick
the playoffs?
between Houston or Minnesota, which team would you back for the playoffs? Right?
Minnesota in
Whoa.
an instant.
Whoa.
In an instant.
Because?
Well, Reynoso's the best player among any of these players. Houston cannot create chances. They just pass the ball
Just
around.
a reminder, we're going to get to this at the end. I'm pretty sure that the best midfielder in CONCACAF right now is
That's possible.
Coco Carrasquilla, and he has been missing for a month. Not as a pure chance creator, but just in your team.
Sure, they weren't creating chances when Coco was in the team.
Yeah, but they didn't have Aliou yet. They have not had all those pieces together.
Aliou has been there with Coco. It was early days. I would not put Aliou on a pedestal of like finishing, chance creation, literally anything. The only goal he
Would you
scored.
put him above Corey Baird, though?
Corey Baird's on the same team.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but those
They've
are 2 bad
improved-
options on the same team.
I
Would
don't
you take either of those guys over Hungwane?
Maybe.
No.
No.
Sorry, what did we just say about
That he
Hungwane
is
at
on the
beginning of
end.
the
That
year?
he's on an end of a million chances. He may be inefficient.
So
as
Aliou had
hell
like 3
finishing.
looks last night. I can't.
We'll see at the end.
Is there no
You're taking-
depth
Are you
at
back
center
in the
back?
Dynamo? Are you back in the Dynamo on this one?
So
No.
the main thing is Minnesota has more home games left than Houston, and MLS teams win at home except Minnesota.
Well, that's the one argument I think is in the favor of Houston. Is this is only the second home loss, and
Yeah.
for me, the
but
recipe
they've
for the
played
playoffs,
11 home games already.
fine, but
And the flip side is 5 wins. I want to say, 5 wins on the road for Minnesota, and Houston has 1 in 11 games.
right. But playoffs, if you win your home games, you're a playoff team for me. Houston wins their home games by and large. They haven't gotten it on the road. They do play against Colorado this weekend. I think they just got their first win at home.
Mhm.
Not a tough place to play this season. Historically, it is. So you would think
It's tough
you're
to
looking
get the
for a
game
bounce
to
back.
play, but not to get results.
Yeah, you'd think if there's a bounce back chance on the road for this Houston team, I think they're winless in their last 4 now. This would be it for them.
Coco won't be at that game because he put one in the corner because he's the best center mid in Gold Cup.
We'll get to your victory lap here in a
Well, I'm
in a
not
bit.
saying a victory lap. I'm saying it's relevant to what is happening
Fair.
with these two
Here-
teams.
Here's a question for you, Kalen. I'm going to give you 6 teams, 2 are out. This is from 6
Here's
to
the
11.
whole league.
Hit me with it. Let's go.
That's
Kalen's
the
ready. All right.
That's the Western Conference, right? This is a 3-point gap from 6th to 11th. Austin, Dallas, Houston, Vancouver, Minnesota, Kansas City. Who's missing the playoffs? 2 teams have to miss from that group. Sorry, Portland. Probably screwing over LA, who are on a 7-match unbeaten run here. And, Colorado signed a DP, but let's be
So
real.
there's 6 teams and now there's 9. Do you have
Yeah.
all of that?
But you have to choose 2 to lose. So you're choosing 2.
But
This
none
is
of the
bad.
none of the
This
last
is like
3.
This is like Teemu Pukki. He can survive in the sauna. Can you survive under the heat of this question?
You're gonna make him leave. He's gonna walk out.
Well, if he can't hack it,
I'm feeling less good about Austin and Vancouver right now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that is
Whoa.
So he said Houston or Minnesota and said no, both. I reject the premise.
Ooh.
I do like both.
I think
Wow.
I would push Dallas and Houston down.
Dallas, man, like they have so many good things going for them. If they use that DP spot this summer and keep Jesus Ferreira, like I think the foundation for what they have is really good, and it's disappointing that it's been slow and like they haven't lived up to the sum of their parts yet.
Houston is right on the edge, but I think with the home form, I'm gonna leave them in.
So Dallas has the 3rd best defense in the
I know.
West, which is the part that I think Austin is trending in the right direction. A lot of the things start to look correct now that people are healthy and back. Obviously, you question center back depth. That's
No.
just a given. No, that's
Cascante came back. Nobody's talking
just
about
a
it.
given. That's just a given, though. You're obviously going to question. Do they have 5 center backs that can play?
They are looking to
We're
add
hitting,
another
all,
center
we're
back.
hitting all.
They're looking at another center
We're
back.
hitting all the
That's
tropes
not-
here. Yeah,
Perfect
because they know
timing.
injuries have robbed them of
The
their depth.
Yeah. Well, they got Brandon Craig too. I think Austin right now to me is trending in the correct direction. So I have more confidence there that like they did it last year. If they continue to do it, and Dallas I like as well, I would trust Vancouver.
Okay.
in that
Also,
grouping.
picking the playoffs. I hate that you made me do this in July before Leagues Cup. How dare you?
We're about to be on a month-long break, Kalen.
All right.
Yeah, you got to put your picks down now.
All right,
Fair enough.
let's stay in the West. Sporting Kansas City 2, Real Salt Lake 2. Sporting up. 2 goals in the first half. They're doing their dance that you like. Daniel
did like
Shallowy, Johnny Russell.
Great
Shallowy hadn't
reporting
scored
by
in-
Tom on the team bonding.
Shallowy hadn't scored in 7, Russell in 6, but they both get goals, so you don't even need Alan Polito, right? We're going to coast. No, Real Salt Lake makes changes at halftime, brings on Chicho Arango,
90
Diego
seconds.
Luna, Pablo Ruiz, I believe, came on at half, and then cut the deficit and got it back. And the game tying goal came from super sub Anderson Julio. 3 straight games with goals, 3 straight games off the bench, bullied Danny Rosero, picked it off and went and scored. What was your big takeaway from this one? Bigger tie for RSL or bigger tie that felt like a loss for Sporting?
I don't know. I'm going to lean the RSL side because I like being positive, and I think they showed they can rotate. They do have some depth. Probably a little bit too much too soon of like you start Nelson Palacio in center mid who can smack the ball. He almost took the keeper's hands off with a strike from distance. He's like aggressive on the half turn, but you start him with Lawfulson. I think that was a little bit too much in a match like this where he doesn't know the league. He's still getting comfortable, but
I was
then,
excited when I saw from him, though.
yeah,
I was
but
excited.
then you bring Arango off and he sets up Musovski in literally 90 seconds. And that's the part with Arango where now that he's this DP signing with this big money, like there's more expectation. And I think to me, I wanted to make sure, like, just do what you're great at. Don't try and be a 10. Don't try and be Reynoso. Like, be who you are. But this is how he fits, I think, in this group when they play with 2 forwards. It's like he can set up a Krylock. He can set up Musovski. And I think you saw over the course of this game how the additions are making everyone comfortable. Like Anderson Julio. He doesn't have to come on at the 45th and run for 45 minutes. He can come on later because they have Arango and they have more depth, and Musovski looks more comfortable alongside Arango. So I think it starts to put all the pieces in properly. And I thought RSL was really good going into those goals. Like I thought they actually controlled a segment of that game in the first half before SKC hit them in transition. So I think overall a positive game for RSL and more towards that movement, which I think Kalen sort of mentioned on the show. I don't know when, as you said, I don't know what we do when, where it's like they should be in that convo of top 4 in the West. Not can they establish themselves? Can they make the playoffs? It's like, are they better than LAFC? Are they better than Seattle? Are they better than St. Louis? And I think this was sort of a move in that direction.
Kalen, if you could rank for me where you think the top... By the way, Pablo Mastroeni, the rotation thing is very real. I couldn't help myself. I had to do it.
Well, the
Had to
part
do
that
it.
I like about Salt Lake is they have so many different weapons that it makes it really hard to key on one guy. But that was the part that I felt like they were missing is ultimately in the playoffs, you do need that one guy.
Yeah.
I think
Who can you guarantee will show up?
The human spirit will be there forever, but who's going to be the one guy? Like,
Yeah.
that's been the difference.
So I think Arango's
Pablo Mastroeni.
he's
Give me
that,
that eye
he's
roll,
that
Andrew
dude.
Davis.
No, there's no eye roll. I just, I was blessing you with the human spirit.
Michael
reference.
Scott, Pablo Mastroeni.
Disappointing for Sporting Kansas City to be up 2 goals
Very.
and to give up goals. I think this is the second week in a row that they've
They
conceded.
gave up a goal in the 98th to Houston, I think.
Yeah.
And then Sebastian Ferreira tried to attack somebody.
Yeah. Well,
Which
he didn't try.
He was suspended incorrectly because I'm still okay with that.
So they got to figure that one out. It was positive they had, contributions from not just Pulido in this one, getting some goals, Shallowy, and then who's the other one?
Johnny
Russell, and
Russell,
they
yeah.
swapped wings.
Yeah.
So the first goal, Russell scores coming off the right, and then the second goal, they swapped wings, and Russell on the left sets up Shallow.
And that felt more like, the prime year with Polito, where those guys were just like best 11, where they were swapping and they were confident and they were finishing. I will say I was surprised on both those goals. It felt like Justin Glad's been so good
Yeah,
this
he
year.
struggled
and he
with
just
that.
he just didn't close down. He had an opportunity to close down on both those goals, and maybe the game is different.
I think
but
part of
I
that
don't knock
is-
him too much for
I
it.
think part of that was who was playing in front of him, and he did not look as comfortable over the course of the first half, where you start to get used to a Ruiz and I don't remember
Ojeda.
which Brian
Ojeda.
is the one that protects him. Yeah, Oviedo. No,
Oviedo did start.
He did.
Right on the left wing.
Ryan
Yeah,
Ojeda.
yeah.
Bail out the center backs for saying who's playing in front of him. It's not that.
I just thought he looked
Brian!
I thought he
Brian!
looked
Wait,
uncomfortable
wait.
throughout.
I'm over here, different Brian.
Yeah.
28 players for Pablo Mastroeni in, I want to say, the last 22
Oh
games.
my God! Go to that roster list.
It's
It
over
never
28,
ends.
28 players over 94 days he's played. And they've lost just 3 times in 22 games. It's pretty incredible.
Real Monarchs for Supporter Shield.
Yeah, it's something. It's something. It's very interesting. We have to give some love to the Chicago Fire.
Well, we want to.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't have to.
Yeah. We would like to give some love to the Chicago Fire 3-0 winners at home against CF Montreal. It's gotten a little tough for Montreal lately, but the Fire took advantage. Gutierrez with his first goal of the season, which was kind of shocking to me. I just had assumed he had scored prior to this, but he's been racking up the assists. And Shaqiri got the goal that we've been waiting for from distance, Kalen. I know that you personally would like to talk about this goal, the quality therein, and what it means for Xherdan Shaqiri and the Fire. So I will cede the floor to you.
Well, this is actually what I was expecting when he was signed.
Correct.
Is that I would be seeing this all the time. That he was going to be consistently on set pieces especially. This one was a little bit more clever because it was a trick play set up to get some motion going and then see him hit the ball on the move, which was fantastic. But these are goals we've seen him score throughout his time, as a professional player. It just hasn't been consistent enough for the Fire. So you see the quality even on the second goal. I believe he gets a slight little touch where he's in the box in the right spot. That's what they need more out of him, to be able to be consistent. That's why he's getting paid, one of the highest wages in MLS. So it was a big step forward for them. They need to continue to unlock Shaqiri to make sure that he can help out. But I like also that it's not been at the expense of Gutierrez.
Mm.
They found a way to keep both of them on the pitch, which was a concern because it felt like at some point it was maybe they were going to sort of leverage or, throughout their future in a sense to allow the star player to play, which was something I was very strongly against. So credit to them. Montreal again on the road wasn't quite the same. Still not the same team on the road as they are at home. But I'm still pretty high on Montreal for what they've done so far this season.
4 straight shutouts. Montreal have been shut out 4 straight times, 3 losses and a draw in that time. But the Fire, 4 wins in 5. And they have Toronto at home to finish out this run before Leagues Cup. And they're above the playoff line into 9th. Pretty incredible. Any deeper
I didn't know
thoughts?
if you were talking
I don't know.
about Tom.
I don't know what the
That's
question.
not even
I
what
honestly
they got.
don't know what the right question for the Fire is right now.
So the only thing that I feel like we're seeing, and this is a group of people that Kalen's more in tune with than I am, but it does feel like from the player side, they let Ezra Hendrickson go. And I think everyone knew it wasn't purely his fault. But again, every cliche, can't fire all the players. It feels like Klopas has come in with CJ and with Zach Thornton, who are already there. And it feels like they have turned that on the players, saying, like, this was on you. And it feels like there's a level
To
of
be fair, it was. They were
well,
they were capable of this to the start of the season. They just kept screwing up.
And that's where I'm saying it feels like the responsibility the players took on. And now you're watching these games where they beat Nashville 1-0. And it's like they hang on. And that was the story for the whole first half of the year. Is like at some point, some self-inflicted mistake. And that's this year and last year and the year before. I mean, remember Decision Day?
We've been talking Keystone Cops with this entire club for a long time.
So it feels like there's been a level of responsibility that's been taken by the team. And I think that's been massive. And then once you get that baseline, then you could start to look at the talent and say, like, oh, Gutierrez and Shaqiri, they can both come in and out of the middle. Haile Salese can also come off the wing. Kutsias goes wide. I mean, they're laughing on the second goal because they scored the same goal twice in 2 minutes. Kutsias goes wide, beats Bogert to the end line, pulls it back. One time Gutierrez scores. The other one, I think Shaqiri would have scored that if Haile Salese is not there to like put it in, which is fine. It doesn't matter. But so I think that's always been there. And now you have like, okay, the performance is even like they're playing hard enough and they're playing both ways. For the first half of the season, they'd score 3, they'd give up 3. They'd score 0, they could hold teams shut out. Like they couldn't open up the game at all. There was not rest defense. The lines weren't tight enough. So anytime you attacked, you were wide open. And anytime you defended, you had no option to attack through. And it feels like they've started to figure some of that out. Kalen, Minnesota, Puebla, and Chicago Fire, which two go through in the Central number 2 division.
We are doing are we doing a Leagues Cup
Yes.
preview? Here, right?
Monday.
There you go. I'll have your answer then.
Okay. Great answer. Great answer. By the way, Sporting Kansas City has caught whatever the Fire had early in the season. 5 of their last 8 games, they've been in a winning position, and they have 11 points dropped in that time.
Well, luckily they started the year hot, so they have
Yeah,
a bit
they
of
had a lot
padding
of-
to work off of.
Fortunately, the entire Western Conference is just like, no, just join us in the peloton, all right? Like, we'll just wait it out till the end of the
Good
season.
Tour de France
You like that?
reference
Yeah.
now.
Okay, let's prime ourselves here for Tom's transfer
Palate
roundup
cleanser. A palate
with a
cleanser.
Jim Curtin quote on the yellow card he received in a 2-0 win
Jim
on the
Curtin's
road
got
in
job
Nashville.
security, man. He's
He's
shooting.
firing.
These were the best. These were the
firing.
most Philly quotes. I was reading it just. ear to ear.
Can I ask you
If
to
he had
do
entered
the
it
honors?
with Go
to-
Birds.
Please read the first quote from Jim Curtin on the yellow card he received in this win against Nashville.
Jim Curtin said, I said the 4-letter F word, which, again, if we're going to give yellow cards for that, I mean, we might as well just cancel the sport because no one would finish a game. So I did. I said, you know the word. That's what I said. I say it all the time, and I'll continue to say it. I was the first yellow card, and I maybe started the motions by using a curse word as a 44-year-old man.
The best line in there is, that's what I said, and I say it all the time, and I will continue to say it. And I felt that deep inside
The
me, Jim.
deadpan of, I cursed. I'm a
I
44-year-old
will
man.
I am going to keep saying
Earmuffs.
that word.
You know
I
what I
will
mean?
always say it. I also enjoyed him on the Shaq Moore, Julian Carranza red cards at the very end of the match. A little bit of a wrestling match between those two. What happens is Julian gets fouled, right? So instead of just blowing the foul and everything
doing
being
an
calm,
accent?
no,
Okay.
just being more aggressive. I'm trying to imitate the people I met in Asbury Park. Let's maybe a half advantage play. So now Julian goes for the ball again. He gets fouled again from the back. Shaq grabs him. Julian retaliates a little bit. In my mind, that's not even a yellow card. That's just talk to the two guys. Yo, knock it off. That's enough. These are clear. These are
knock
clear.
It off. Knock it off.
This one's a little out of pocket from Jim. I think those are pretty clear violent conduct red cards, but I appreciate
That was a
sentiment.
heat check pulling up from way downtown with like, dude, not even a yellow. I'm not even
Like,
sure if it was a
what?
foul.
That's not even a yellow
Swallow
card.
the whistle. I mean, Julian Carranza had him in a headlock.
Yeah, but in Westchester, that's not even a call. That's just you start playing.
Kalen's saying nothing here. He's like, I've trained with Jim Curtin. I am
Man, these are the worst impersonations I've ever heard.
zip it.
All right, Kalen, you have to choose 4 of these 6 in a fight. CJ Brown, Chris Armas, Jim Curtin,
Oh man.
Ante Razov,
Jesse Marsh.
John Thorrington, who, by the way, is Armenian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said it on the broadcast last night.
Interesting.
Fun fact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Weebies.
Yeah, big.
There's- I
Armenian
wouldn't wanna-
history. One of the
There's
things that I really.
Yeah.
gets
There's a lot of
me going.
guys on that list I was afraid of,
Yeah.
even as teammates, and I would say Jim was probably one of them. So I wouldn't mess with Jim. I would say, well, I was watching the wrap up Weeby last night, and I think Jillian asked you guys like, how would you handle this situation if with the red cards, whatever. I really didn't have an issue with either player getting after it. Like, it sounded to me like the referee maybe let this get away from him as far as like the tenor of the game.
Yeah, the overall control of the game.
You had to know Nashville and Philly playing against each other, what was going to happen, right? Like anybody who's watched any of these teams play knows it's going to be like a fight, right? It's going to be I actually thought that moment between the two of them kind of summed up a lot of the match. And, you know, that's kind of what I like about both of these teams, specifically those players. Carranza, for me, not a lot of number 9s in MLS that are ready to kind of throw down
Actually,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
They'll square up and then they'll get broken up at the
Right.
last
This
second.
was a little
Oh,
bit
no.
like to go to the Philly side of like, I guess Nashville has a team too, but like a little bit like a hockey fight where two guys look at each other and they're like,
I think
yeah, no,
they're-
we're dropping.
I think they're literally called Bashville.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're like known as a fighting. Do you watch hockey?
Devils.
Go Devils.
But Shaq Moore, he gets the the
Oh,
first of
Marty
all,
Brodeur?
what planet is these two? Oh man, I don't even get the NBA references on.
Yeah,
here.
I don't really know hockey.
Now we're going
either.
hockey. This is
Yeah.
getting deep. But yeah, I don't know. I
It's
don't
not
have
the
an
ref's
issue.
fault that Daniel Lovitz pushed Gazdag in the back and then slid in and took it out.
No, I thought both of those decisions were right. It was really not the big decisions there, but I think more than anything, just understanding what this is. On the outside, as a neutral, I would love to watch a home series, wherever it is.
Yeah.
You want to go to Bashville or Westchester, wherever it is. Like, I'd be down for that. the way these two teams would scrap going at it
Yeah.
to see who's still standing by the end of that series, for me, I would be very ready for that.
Whoever gets through that first round matchup, you want to be the team playing them because there's going to be 4 players suspended for at least the first leg.
Just dragging bloody limbs into the
Should we
next
have Claude
round.
Lemieux call the games with us?
Have you been sitting there
Probably
thinking of those hockey references?
Is it possible
Claude
based on
no,
where they are
you guys
in the
know
table?
Claude Lemieux?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to not make this
Conference
go into
standings. So Nashville is third. Philly
Yeah, they
is
dropped down to
fourth.
third. Mhm.
So yeah, 4. Well, because 9 plays 8 to get in. There's
Yeah,
8
yeah.
teams. So 4 plays 5.
Mhm.
I got there.
So it feels like Nashville's fading. 4 losses in 5. Hani not producing. Tom's transfer extravaganza starts now, and we start with Nashville in their number 9 spot. It's awfully quiet, and I heard you guys talk about that. Is there any more? Oh, no, there is. I forgot. We saw the picture of
The pick.
a guy that might be Mike Jacobs and a guy that might be Sam Surridge in an airport. They might have just ran into each other.
The profile makes sense, honestly. It's an English forward, a target man forward. Like, that's clearly what Gary Smith wants from his number 9 spot. So again, if this is
English, big.
well, no, like he clearly in his game model wants a target man forward. Like, he would not play Ake Loba next to Hani Mukhtar. He would not. Like, that's why Ake Loba never played, because Hani, Gary Smith decided that we're not going to play those two together. If Ake's best spot is Hani's best spot, Ake's never playing, and that's what happened. So I was pretty certain that this center forward was going to be somebody who was more like Yonder Cadiz, like a much more of a physical threat. And again, Sam Surridge kind of fits that. So again, it's fine. We found it on Instagram that somebody snapped a picture of, again, who looked like Sam Surridge and who looked like Mike Jacobs from the National.
I mean, from a
Just trying to be
from
careful.
From a VAR standpoint, I wouldn't call it clear and obvious that that's Mike Jacobs. There's an element of doubt. I'm more confident that that's Sam Surridge.
You big Nottingham guy?
No idea. Nottingham, Pool Town, Yeovil Town, Oldham Athletic, Swansea City, Stoke City.
I was like, why are you pulling these names? Then I realized you're reading his resume.
Yeah, his resume. Yeah.
He's 22. He's played for all those
4.
teams.
A lot of loans.
Oh, he's 24.
Yeah, so he's a Bournemouth player who went on a lot of loans over many, many years here. His best goal-scoring seasons were 8, 8, 7, and 7. He's never really been a first-choice, start-every-game sort of guy.
So Luke Rogers signing.
Luke Rogers,
What a reference. What a
Good
reference.
Weeby loves Luke
Yeah, oh,
Rogers.
yeah.
I gotta get one in every 18 months.
Double-digit goal scorer, Luke Rogers.
Weeby's gonna go
Excuse you.
text Luke Rogers as the game just to check.
Thierry
in.
Henry
Been a while.
enjoyed playing with Luke Rogers.
And Landon Donovan did not. I remember the quote of Donovan saying, "Who is that?"
Did he go to the Galaxy and that happened?
No, there was like a Red Bull LA Galaxy game
Oh,
where
he
they
did not like the
and like
matchup.
Luke Rogers said something about Donovan, and Donovan was asked about it. He's like, I don't know who that is.
I like that as a quote. Good job, Landon.
What do you think of the Toronto-New England trade, Kalen? Latif Blessing to Toronto, Mark Anthony Kaye to New England. Our own Tommy Scoops was all over this one.
Yeah, I was confused. I was a little surprised, honestly, because I thought Latif I thought he was a really great pickup. I thought he was one of the better pickups, but it does seem a little bit, the more I think about it, it starts to make a little bit of sense. One, I think Toronto's a good place to mine if you're looking for a midseason move as far as just the mess that it's been this season, and you can pick up some good players that could be successful elsewhere. I also think maybe compared to the system, Latif, I think for Toronto to have him run, or to have basically they need runners to be able to track more and like pick up balls, and then also help be a little bit more like a facilitator in a kind of a Swiss Army knife way, and that's what Latif has been throughout his career. And then on the other side, I think the 4-2-3-1 is still the Revs' best position, and that doesn't really suit Latif because he's not really a dual 6. You're gonna have Carlos Hill in front of him. They've played a diamond at times where he could play that 8, or if they play 3 in the middle, that works. But as far as a regular player, maybe the more I started to think about it, the more I was like, okay, Mark Anthony Kaye fits more as that base where you have Noel Buck there, but I don't know if Buck's going to leave at some point. We've got Tommy Scoops here.
Yes.
But yeah, the more I started thinking about it, I mean, both guys I think are on probably comparable contracts.
Mark Anthony Kaye makes, I think, like 100,000 more, so it's pretty close.
Okay.
And
but
has
he's
at least one more year of guaranteed comp and is 2 years older.
Okay, so you switch the two pieces in 2 different places. You get a fresh start. And I think for what New England's trying to do as far as pushing towards, trying to win an MLS Cup, basically, this is one where you say, I think Mark-Anthony Kaye, although he hasn't been in great form this season or last season, so maybe a fresh change of pace.
So I was going to say, I agree with most of what you're saying. Like that this trade for me makes sense in that I think Blessing fits better in Toronto and Kaye fits better in New England. Because what Toronto need is more runners in the midfield, no matter who's playing, whether it's Michael Bradley or somebody else, just because of the attack. And that's been the one thing that they've been missing really for the last couple of years. And so they had Franco Ibarra, who's, again, Goss, we talked about this after the show, that like he covers ground and he wins tackles. Like those are his two qualities, and that's why he traded from. Latif Blessing is an all-action number 8. He's perfect as a central midfielder in a 4-3-3, in like a 3-man central midfield. He wasn't getting that in New England because obviously you have Carlos Hill. He's going to be a 10. And he doesn't really fit as a double pivot. So Mark-Anthony Kaye will go somewhere where he has to cover less ground and he can play as a double pivot, again, with Matt Polster. And then there's, again, Noel Buck, who, again, as I've reported, nothing really new here, that like the English clubs are interested. And, maybe we'll see a winter move, whatever it is. I mean, he'll be here for the rest of the season, but you're planning for a future that probably doesn't include Noel Buck at some point and just getting more depth. So for me, the trade is, Latif wasn't a perfect fit in New England and Kaye wasn't a perfect fit in Toronto. And you kind of swap those players.
It does not make sense to me at all. If it works out, I will be ecstatic because I love Mark-Anthony Kaye as a person and a player. You talked about his drop of form. It's basically been that way since he's been injured in Colorado. Like he has not, since that moment, shown the player he was at LAFC when he was healthy, who at the time I thought was a Premier League player, like elite in MLS. But it feels like part of his burst and athleticism maybe has gone with the injuries, and then he's clean on the ball. He reads the game well, but he was doing all that at an elite speed level. Now it's not as much. He struggled in Toronto. I don't understand why it would be better for him in New England. And if I'm New England, I'd rather take the risk of like, maybe it works with Latif at 26 on his contract. And if it doesn't, I could get something that's not a piece that Toronto, who's the worst midfield in the league, doesn't find useful to play. Like if all the things New England wants are the things Toronto does not have, from the Toronto side, I totally get it. You got a younger player. They got an international roster spot as well, which I think just covers Latif, is what we were talking about, because Latif doesn't have his green card anymore. And then you've now added Ibarra, him, and Jonathan Osorio. Osorio hasn't started an MLS game since like April because of injury and then international. So TFC has remade their midfield. I don't think it's elite, but it can cover ground now. Like it can do all the things they couldn't. And that probably opens up Insigne Bernadeschi to be better. It feels like we're on a track with this. It's not going to work, but this is closer than what it was.
Makes sense to me from a Bruce Arena standpoint of just like, I like veterans, and now in New England from here in a win now mode for sure.
Latif and Kaye have basically had the exact same career in MLS.
I don't know. Maybe he just decided he likes. Maybe he wants the ball progression. Maybe he wants the passing. Maybe he thinks it's just a better compliment because he's not going to move around as much and be as busy next to Polster. I don't know. Maybe he just plans on playing Buck there anyway, but then it doesn't make sense to trade Latif.
I don't understand the move from the New England side. I am happy to be wrong. I would be stoked. And they also brought in Ian Harkes, so they have more.
Oh, I forgot about that too.
Yeah, he started, I think, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So, Scotland.
I don't know. We'll see. At least they're making moves on the Rev side. They're going for it. Thomas Schonkele coming in, obviously. That's another big one. Haven't seen him debut yet so far. Anything on the docket for you transfer-wise, Tom?
Yeah, Charlotte FC are making some moves. They've signed Belgian midfielder Brecht Diachra. He's a free agent after being at FC Toulouse. Yeah, I'm surprised as you guys are.
I'm stoked about
Thank you very much.
I saw it in the rundown and I was just like, I will not.
I was practicing that before 360 last night because I reported it yesterday during the day, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna blow this name. And I was just like standing like after I reported the Blessing and Kaye trade from the hallways, waiting to go on 360. I was like just standing there going Brecht Diachra. Like just kind of repeating to myself. People probably thought I was crazy, but I got it right. It worked.
They definitely thought you were crazy.
Standing in a hallway, eyes closed,
with the earpiece in and just feverishly typing on my phone.
I actually think you have mystical powers.
So anyway, Sean FC.
Who or what are you summoning? Right
Yeah.
now?
You're summoning a 32-year-old central midfielder who helped
Nice.
FC Toulouse get promoted and then helped keep them in Ligue 1, and his contract expired, so he's a free signing. Charlotte wanted him because they wanted to add more kind of attacking, like ball progression quality to the base of their midfield. And another deal, which is, I guess, kind of related, would be that they're finalizing a transfer of Nuno Santos to Vitória. He was signed last summer from Benfica. I believe it was a max TAM deal. And he made 9 appearances. He hasn't played since April. So I think it's good that they're getting out of that deal. And then earlier it came out today, reports, I believe, in either Belgium or France, that they're looking for a left back, Moussa Diarra, another one from Toulouse. But again, like that aligns with what I heard their goals were this summer, which was central midfield, both experienced leadership and potentially a starter. So Diarra is looked at as more as a starter. They brought in Scott Arfield for veteran leadership and rotation, and they wanted a left back. And now if they get this player Diarra over the line, whatever it is, that's what they want to add.
Are they going to sign a center back?
No.
Because they'll bring in a center mid, so they'll play Jones full time at center back.
Yeah, so Jones is viewed more of like in that area of the field right now. Plus, like with Malanda, Crujo, and Tuiloma, they feel like they have 3 solid options, and then Jones would be the 4th.
I think they have 3 options.
Okay, fair enough.
I would use the word solid.
Didn't you call Adilson, by the way, before you take a victory ride, you called him Adilson Malanda like potentially the best?
I think I put him number 1 on my U22 list going into the season.
Yeah. So
sometimes you got to be willing to take the L. Listen, Jim Curtin style. I'll say that again.
Wait, are you ready to take the L on NYCFC?
Oh,
huge number 9. Massive striker signing.
I don't
Big
think
news
it's
in
an L.
MLS.
I think I've said every single year for the last 4 years that at the end of a transfer window or in the middle of nowhere, they're going to sign 5 dudes who we've never heard of from leagues we don't watch, and all of them are going to be phenomenal. And then they'll do it again in 2 years. This guy's going to be like, I want to stay with New York. I don't want to play for Torquay, but there's nothing I can do about it. And Nicolas Acevedo is going to be like, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah.
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 Brazil is nice. This is a beach town. They signed a forward from an 22-year-old Algerian forward from the Croatian First Division, where he had 8 goals and 3 assists in 1,700 minutes. And apparently closing in on a center back as well, Tom?
Yeah, Berk Riese, I've heard that they had bid a couple of days ago. They were in advanced talks. Reports came out today that they've reached an agreement with Molde for Berk Riese. So I guess that's one to watch because, again, guys, we were talking on this show a couple of days ago saying that they need a center forward and they need a center back. And 3 days later, here we go.
Mounsef Bakrar is the Algerian center forward, and it was so under the radar that I didn't even notice the press release or news. Nobody was talking about it, and I am literally on Twitter all the time.
It was the same with Eber. Like, they signed Eber. They needed a center forward. They finally signed him, and it was just like, here, I'm pretty sure someone at the outfield, because they do great work, like went and watched a bunch of Croatian league tape and put together a profile on Eber, and it was like and it came out like 2 weeks later, and no one had even noticed. But you're going to trust both these signings. Players of these profiles, NYCFC has hit on almost 100% so far. So the idea is these guys are going to step in and be good, and they'll probably push everyone into their proper positions, right? If Bakra is legitimately a center forward, you've now made Talas Magno and Gabi Pereira and Santi Rodriguez better players. Mm-hmm. And if you have a legitimate center back, you just make everyone's life easier.
Last rumor, throw this to you, Kaylin. Diego Rossi to Atlanta United.
Love it. Love it. I mean, well, we've seen so many times. We've just talked about it, with Chicho Arango. Just the players that what it looks like in MLS feels like a great safe bet to come in. You know what Diego Rossi is. You know exactly what he provides. And I think the fit for Atlanta would be awesome because you have Thiago Almada, we talked about Reynoso. I saw it a little bit with Lucho. Teams just trying to crowd that middle of midfield to starve space from him, not allow him anything. The best thing you can do for that is to have a vertical option, someone that can stretch the field in behind and make you respect that space. They haven't really had that. Caleb Wiley early in the season. They're hoping Derek Etienne Jr. He's gone with the Gold Cup now, had been gone. So I just feel like they could really use that speed option because then you also have to respect some width as well. And that's just come from Gutman or the wide areas or those wing, sort of deep fullbacks to push forward. And that's something that I think would even open up space for Yakumakis. And so I just think that one sort of elite player and instead of having to do what Atlanta United have done in the past, which is generally to go get somebody from South America, who hasn't played in MLS, and you're saying, what does this look like? Wow, there's so much excitement and hype, but it takes time to settle in. This is a player that you feel like could immediately make a big difference. Now, it doesn't solve the defensive woes. They're already. It's not like they're like not scoring goals.
Does this get Miles Robinson to sign a new contract?
I think that it's got to be a DP deal for him to say for what I think our assumptions are and from things that we've heard. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Is this real or no?
So that's what I was going to say. Doug Roberson reported, "Don't get your hopes up," kind of thing with Atlanta. And
Too late, Doug.
I just broke it down.
Too late, Doug.
And to say no, hold on. So what works is this and also like I was talking to folks yesterday who said that Atlanta's plan is if they had a DP this summer, it would be a DP that could be bought down with TAM in the winter so that they have the flexibility to go again.
That doesn't sound.
So that can't be Rossi. But again, maybe what I would say is any MLS team that can sign Diego Rossi should. You change your plans to do whatever, because I did hear that an MLS club has made an offer that Fenerbahce want more money. If he costs, let's just say $7 million, just go do it. This is money in the bank. He's proven in this league. He's still
Tom will spend your $7 million
look
that.
at some of these other signings, man.
Tom's like, what else are you doing with the money? Let's go.
We've been talking about how great the Chicho Rongo signing is. $6 million from Pachuca. Just go spend if Diego Rossi is available for between 6 and 10, whatever the number ends up being, just go sign him. It's a golden boot winner as a winger in this league. And again, Uruguay International, early prime. This is a no-brainer to me. If he wants to come back, if Fenerbahce are open to letting him go sign him.
You also probably have some sell on there. He's 24. You probably won't recoup value, but if he plays well for you and then wants to leave, you probably have some sell on. In terms of Atlanta, I understand Carlos Bocanegra is making signings, but Garth Lagerwey is the guy who signed Albert Rusnak and has leaned back on the Will Bruins and the Kellen Rose of if I've seen them in MLS, I trust it. So it makes sense for this team. The only minor concern would be, I think we saw with LAFC when Vela was out and pieces start to shift, he doesn't create his own chances. So he's an elite finisher. He's an elite field stretcher. If Almada does leave, you will still need to bring in another high-level 10. But he and Giacomakis, the floor is pretty high on them.
Mm-hmm.
If you create chances, you'll score. I don't think either of them are chance creators. That would be the only slight concern. But this is all a jigsaw puzzle with Atlanta of you're not getting one off season where everyone leaves and you build a whole new team. You have to do it on the fly. And I think what Tom says of Rossi's guaranteed certain level, that's a safe one to bring in with Giacomakis to say we don't really have the crystal ball in Almada. We don't know if it's now. We don't know if it's the winter. We don't know if the number is going to hit what we think. Then do we have to hold on to him longer? And I think Rossi's a safe piece to have in your team that whole time, unlike a Luis Araujo.
Any final transfer nuggies?
Olivier Mbaizo has put in a transfer request from the Philadelphia Union after his son and his wife were denied visas again. So he wants to go somewhere to be with his family, and Philadelphia understand, but their strong preference is to settle this in the winter rather than right now. It's been a couple of years, unfortunately, for Mbaizo and his family, which is very sad. Aloy Room is close to signing with Vitesse in the Netherlands. It would come through as a mutual contract termination. He started, I think, only 3 games this year. And last one would be
Vitesse? VTs?
I
don't know. Now I'm doubting myself. This is the issue.
a
Dutch club that starts with a V.
Yeah. Get lost.
George Bello is
not VVV Venlo. I know that.
Nice.
George Bello isn't signing with RSL. They were in talks, but he's going to stay in Europe. I believe LASK, whatever it is, in Austria.
That's our guy, Hungry Wolves' former club that he managed and played for. Huh?
Struber?
Yeah, Struber.
I think they're the...
And it's so great that Goss was like, oh yeah, Struber.
Are they not the... Oh, Leffering is the one that's Red Bull's
second
farm team, yeah.
Yeah, 30 games.
Yeah.
Cool. Glad we settled
He coached
that.
Leffering. Sorry, I've missed. I knew he switched
Wow,
time
we were
to Lask.
so far on the wavelength. We were incorrect in this.
Well, but I got to, he played there. Okay. Any final thoughts before we allow Dave to rant on the U.S. loss in the semis and Coco?
Ranting.
Well, more on Coco Carrasquilla and Panama.
Oh, then I'm stumping.
Yeah, you're stumping.
Yeah. I think rant is negative connotation, which would probably lean more towards the U.S. stuff than Panama.
I've covered a third place Gold Cup game. It is dire.
Well, I'm pretty sure that year, that's when Mexico played Jamaica in the final when Piojo got fired in the airport in Philly right after, because you can't mess with people in the Philly airport.
Go Birds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll say a 4-letter word. I mean,
And you know
starts
what?
with F. You know what it is.
I'll say it again.
I'm not going to stop.
So yellow. Yellow. That's it.
Yeah, just,
No. Just tell him to knock
Not
it
even
off.
a yellow. Like what? All these guys out here are saying that word.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go to Panama.
We're going to. No, I said I thought Panama was going to win the Gold Cup.
Oh.
And I've gotten a decent amount of heat of blame for cursing it, which is not my fault. I watched the games.
I will say I was extremely dismissive when Goss was like, dude, Panama are the favorite. And I was like, bro, what are you talking about? And I was wrong. You were right.
Thank you. I appreciate it. They deserve to win. I thought they deserved to go to the World Cup. That was pretty unfortunate for them. Of like they were a top 14 throughout qualifying. The roster's fairly thin, but I think Christensen said that in the post game of like it wasn't a failure not to make the World Cup. We accomplished something in the way we played and what we're building. And it felt like Panama held on too long to their golden generation, similar to what Costa Rica is going through. And so a little bit worried, but now you look at this team. I mean, Andrade's playing in the Bundesliga, as I've talked about. Coco's 24.
He's awesome, dude.
I thought he was like 30.
The fact they got that one permanent is a pretty big deal.
Yes.
And
I don't know, like he's a great two-way player. I don't know if he's a DP in the way that we think of that position in MLS, but he's someone I'd always want on my team than not. And Godoy's been unreal.
Yeah.
Since he joined Nashville, pretty much.
That was the thing I was going to say about Nashville is they were missing Schaffelberg, Teal was hurt, and then Godoy's been out for basically this entire run. That is pretty crucial. And I remember when they made that trade, we were like, what?
Yeah.
How much for Anibal Godoy?
Everyone mocked it, and they hit it out.
Yep.
All right, that's it for us, I think. Big thanks to the people of Asbury Park. Just want to shout you out one more time. Go Birds. Adios. We'll see you on Monday.